Welcome back to Crown's Crypto Cave and a happy actual Sunday morning. I said happy Sunday morning yesterday. My bad. I'm actually just from the future. But again, back in Sunday. Hey, hello. How you doing? Hope you're having a good one and hope that this video is finding you well. As always, the Sunday series is about longer term analysis. So we'll be going through the majors and some more long-term ideas. So without further ado, let's get right into it over here. If I can get my words out properly, that'll be even better. Well, we got this guy right here. Again, the same, basically where we left it off about a few weeks ago, but tightening up the range ever so more. Still dealing with the 6150 support. That is the big one that needs to be violated if the bears are to have some serious new lows. And the smaller descending triangle upper resistance is now officially coming around 6750 area on Finex, although other exchanges, I'm going to guess it's actually probably lower. Let's go over to GDAX just really quick. I'm curious what GDAX would be showing over here. Yeah, so you will notice that there is a big discrepancy between the Tether exchanges and the US dollar exchanges. So let's see what this one kind of shows up over here. You didn't get the same sort of test that you did the other day that you saw on Finex on the USD exchanges. But yeah, the upper resistance would actually be around 6720. So that's just an example of the differences in price action between these few exchanges. But I'm going to go back over here to do charting on some Finex action over here. You can see that yesterday, yes, Bitcoin did close above the yellow 21 exponential on Finex. Let's go over and see if that's replicated on other exchanges. Stamp, no, closed below. GDAX, no, closed below. BitMexico, no, closed below. So again, a lot of things kind of coming into the market right now. And we're seeing bifurcation between the exchanges. Well, really just Finex. I don't really see it replicated on any of the other major exchanges. So things to be aware of over here. Definitely a big deal to me because that 21 exponential is kind of like my litmus test as always for generally bullish, generally bearish. But either which way that you do kind of look at it, Bitcoin is just, really wrapping itself around it. More is probably like the main interpretation that I would have. You still got your main support right around here 6550. You still got your main resistance right here at about 6650. Nothing's changed quite literally in like a week and a half, 2 weeks, all the way from over here. And really, you could say that this is a symmetrical triangle of some sorts right here, although it's also not my main interpretation of it either. My main interpretation is actually as a broadening wedge bear flag down around here, which does make a little bit more sense to me. Now, the reason why is because the volume characteristics would be congruent with something like that coming all the way back here, especially if we go over here to the daily. You'll see that you have this very orderly drop-off in volume going all the way through. That, to me, says consolidation begins over here, so the more accurate way to be representing this is as a broadening wedge, or you could say a bear flag, whatever the fuck you want to call it. They all work for me. But typically bearishly resolved or resolved to the downside. Going back to the lower time frames over here, we do have this nice horizontal aligning with the upper resistance coming in right around here. So I really like that for good confluence, right around 6750. That would be my horizontal kind of representing this area. But again, it is kind of coming around. Well, actually, I guess it is around 6750. We'll call it that. All right. Your next big support right around here, right around 6450. It's just every $100 down. And then you got this guy down around here, right around 6350, and then this rising trend line, kind of in between them. So it is coming to decision time pretty damn soon, actually, on this area over here. There's not that much space if you were to keep up the price action in this area right here. Now, of course, if you were to go to the full apex of the smaller descending triangle, it would be coming in around November 6th, so less than a month now. And they can blow at any goddamn given moment. And in fact, it's actually incredibly likely as it becomes more and more likely as time goes on that it wants to blow. If you were to break the bottom of this broadening wedge-ish bear flag-ish support, well, you'd still have to deal with the 6150 support. That is still the biggest, baddest one in my mind. But you do have to wonder, okay, well, do we initiate a measure move if that does happen? Well, because we can make a measure move off this. So let's just see what that spits back at us and just kind of apply there. Again, making a major assumption here, major assumption being made that you break to the downside, and that would be pointing you all the way down here towards 51 to 5,100 support. A nice little wick coming down over here, good volume on that, kind of aligned with this prior high over here. Swing high, always going to be an area of interest, and kind of a psychological support as well. So if Bitcoin were to break 6150, I do believe that it would find significantly lower lows, even though you do have actually some good support built up along the way. You got this guy right here at about 5800, 5850, because everyone's going to be buying the prior low, because, well, that's what your fucking trading books for dummies tells you to do, and CNBC and all these great social media places. I'm buying the double bottom, except when you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, nine bottoms. There's not even a name for that. So fair enough. Anyways, there would be support along the way, and likely bounces along the way. Are those tradable bounces? Define tradable. If you're used to R. Kelly, define tradable. Well, I'd say like a couple $100. So yeah, those would be potential areas, but again, going over here to Bitstamp, we do have some ideas that certainly do point a lot lower and do make a lot of sense lower. Now, I always want to point out this dotted 10-year logarithmic trend line going all the way from the genesis of Bitstamp. The red arrow is pointing towards it right now. If you're unfamiliar with it. I'm going to take this off actually right here. Let's just get all these guys off. It's getting a little bit convoluted. That's never been broken in Bitcoin's almost 10-year history. But I see a lot of people throwing this idea around that just because it's there, it can't be broken. That is so fucking wrong. It's because it's there that it can be broken. Trend lines were made to be broken. Now, Bitcoin has been living in it for about 10 years now. It can live in there for quite some time more. That's for sure. So I'm not saying that it's going to break it. I'm just saying if you think that it can't be broken just because it's been around for 10 years, that is not the correct mindset in my experience. It can 100% be broken. I'm not saying it's going to be broken, just saying it can. It certainly can. Okay, so where does the next kind of area kind of make sense if you were to lose that 5,000 area? Well, let's go over here and put on the volume profile first. Or first things first, we got to get off the fib over here. Check that off. By the way, definitely check that one out. Fun tool over there. Let's see, what was I going to look at? Yeah, volume profile. Okay, get on your volume profile over here, and visible range would be aligned. If we go back to the daily over here, if we were to kind of just drop our face out of this, out of that last support, which the volume profile does agree with. Remember that we had a big support right around 5,800. There ain't nothing doing all the way down to high to mid 4,000s area right around here, which kind of was our next big support. Now, of course, there are more horizontals within this range. If I do flash my drawing tools over here, you can see that this blue box does represent some nice horizontal support activity right here. But taking it back off again, I like how it kind of aligns with a lot of different things. Again, I'm going to put back on the drawing tools and just point out that, hey, not only do you have that, but you also have the 786 Fibonacci retracement coming in at this next higher volume node. Not only that, but you do have your weekly. Sorry, it's going to be more difficult to see with I'm going to turn off the volume profile now. But you do have your weekly 200 exponential, this purple line kind of hooking around this area as well. Now, yes, it's not as high. And also, just as important, you have this dotted 10-year logarithmic trend line. Well, that would be right around that area as well, too. So you got a measured move, you got a big Fibonacci, you got a humongous exponential on the weekly total time frame, you got the volume profile, and you've got some thick, solid, tight horizontals. So a lot of things kind of aligning for that area as a good, area. And as we could just kind of looked at, they're not all agreeing like to the dollar with each other, but they are within a range, and I do consider that within a range. So I'd say 4,500, give or take a couple $100 would make about sense, and we'll know better, as time approaches. It could be higher, it could be lower, but that's the area where I start to say, okay, now is the time where at least I have to have a little bit of a defensive buy. Or at least start closing some shorts. Although I don't really have many positions on right now. Okay, so with that said, I've been playing around with this idea over here as something. I'm not sure if I fully believe in it, but I do want to point it out as a possibility. And let's go to the daily. I'm gonna do something a little bit different over here. I'm gonna scare a lot of people with this one, so I apologize about this, but it's for your own good. it's for science. All right. Okay, I'm gonna rearrange this. Actually, just delete the whole chart. Okay, this is just an idea. I'm not saying this is gonna happen, but I don't see too many people talking about this. you do have what looks to be some variation of a broadening wedge over here, a humongous one, an absolutely humongous one. Does the volume profile fit? That is a good question. It's not perfect. It's not perfect, but there is something to be said about this formation right here. I could also redraw it to this guy right here, and there'd still be some validity to it. This would actually be a little bit. This would make a little bit more sense right here. And if I were to make a measure move off of this, we can see. And I also like how, if you were using this as your support, the bottom support would be right around that 6,200 level, which has been pretty damn staunch as of late. This would be pointing you all the way down into the lower 4,000. So we do have a measure move also pointing us, making that a range, so to say. Again, I'm not sold on this idea. There's certainly question marks about it, but I'm, I keep on trying to play around with things that I don't necessarily, want to believe, but it very well could be. It very well could be. Okay, so anyways, enough about that. Again, that was just kind of like a, one of those things where it's like, all right, I just want to point it out. Just want to point it out as a possibility. I'll put it that way. Okay, back on over here to Bitstamp, to good old Bitstamp. A lot of people have been pointing this out as well. I think this is quite misleading. Let's get, where was my measuring tool? Date and price range. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so a lot of people have been kind of measuring out, saying, hey, Bitcoin's already gone down, 90%. It can't happen. Well, that's actually wrong. And you'll notice in the past market cycles, and this one doesn't even really count right here, by the way, because you never really went below any major exponentials on some higher time frames. So I'm actually gonna take that away. But this guy over here, you did retrace all the way about 85.5%. Well, if you were to take a retracement tool on the same sort of thing in 413 days, by the way, and that's just from the ultimate high to the ultimate low. Well, if you go to the current stance right now with our current low, it's been about 294 days, almost a year now. Well, about 10 months, and it's been about 72%, we'll call it. So if I were to extend this, and again, this is not my main main way to do technical analysis, but I just want to show what would an 85.5% retracement look like off the highs. Well, it would put you right in the breadbasket of this guy right here at around $3,000, which I do, as you can see, have a lot of things marked out around. So I'm just going to take this off for now, and then talk about a few more things. I'm going to take this guy off too. All right, so you also notice that in this 3,000 level, we do have a nice horizontal. We do have the 886 Fibonacci retracement in that range as well. Where did Bitcoin bottom out in 2014? The 886 Fibonacci retracement. And it actually consolidated between the 786 and the 886, just an FYI. The 200 simple coming around this range as well. Horizontals, as we just spoke about. If I were to put on the volume profile, going back to the daily, you will notice that let's take everything off really quick right here. You will notice that, yeah, really, even though that one looks kind of higher when we were zoomed in, this one's kind of the next bigger one. And then this guy, obviously much further down at around $800. I'm not saying that we're going to $800. There's a reason why I don't believe you're going to go to $800. You have significant support built up. Whoops, let's get this out of here. You have significant support built up around, $1,300 from your prior high. That will always be a very, 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 very strong support. Doesn't mean that it can't be broken. I'm not saying that it's going to be broken or anything like that, but just talking more long-term stuff. That's why I would be less inclusive of thinking about that. So when it comes down to it, oh, by the way, also Bitcoin did bottom on the, let's go to the BLX over here. Bitcoin did bottom on the 200 simple in 2014 as well, by the way. So when it comes down to it, right, when you're looking at a volume profile, and if you are like a volume profile practitioner, if that's even such a thing, you basically want to see like a pyramid scheme, like an MLM formation in your volume. Basically, with this guy being like the apex of your pyramid, and then kind of like a symmetric, building around it, representing like a foundation, right? You want your foundation to be very, very strong, and that kind of builds up the impetus for an actual, move to the upside. If you were to have one. Now, this is coming from volume profile guys. I myself use volume profile as like a secondary tool. It's not my main way of doing things, but it does have good confluence with what I'm saying over here as well. A lot of the times you just want to kind of come back into this range and just figure out, okay, well, are there really any buyers, or who's really doing business around here? Because we didn't spend any time in this range right here, so we need to really figure this out. The market likes to test these areas because it wants to be sure. It wants to be sure before it moves higher or perhaps lower if it's if the reaction is not good enough. So things to think about. Things definitely to think about. So, okay, take this guy off. Let's talk about the bullish scenario as well. I want to give that some credence, of course. All right, so what happens, and this is possible. This is 100% possible. Jesus Christ, man, super possible. I just like people who say Bitcoin can't go below 5,000. I think that they're crazy. I also think people who think that Bitcoin can't, rally back up to 8,000 from here are crazy as well. Anything's fucking possible. We're just playing a probabilistic game. So yes, you would still have the smaller descending triangle right here. If you were to break out above this smaller descending triangle, I really don't see much stopping you from this next 200 simple and 200 exponential right around here. Now that should be pretty damn staunch resistance right around 7250. And that will likely align with a test of the major downtrend resistance line right here. Yep, pretty much it's close enough is close enough really in this game, but right around here. And if you could break that, if you can break 7,200-ish area, and that would likely coincide with the higher high over this guy right here at about 7,350, 7,400, well, then you got something to look at, because you'd have your first higher high in the last 10 months, and that is very impressive. Very impressive. It's a start. It's what I should say. It's a fucking start. But hey, fair enough. If Bitcoin were to get above there, I start to get interested. I really do start to get interested. Above 8,000, I get very interested. Above 10,000, that is where I say I believe the lows have been had, and I do not believe that Bitcoin will go lower than we've currently seen right here, right now. Perhaps you could also represent this as a falling wedge-sicle over here. Let me get this guy over here. Yeah, there we go. You could represent this as a falling wedge, although it's not my main interpretation on this chart either, because one, I fucking hate wedges. I'm a wedge racist. I hate wedges of all shapes and colors, and I seriously mean that, because you're supposed to draw the pizza this way. A couple months ago, it breaks out above here, false breakout on low volume. To be fair, it was a good fake out potential, which we did talk about, but what happens after that? Well, you just redraw it and you still have your wedge. It's like, all right, so fuck that. This is why I also just don't like being a breakout trader. It's like breakouts fail so often. Anyways, your volume profile on a falling wedge would not be really congruent with what a falling wedge kind of implies. A falling wedge has a psychology behind it. It's not just a shape of a pattern. It is a shakeout of sellers. And how does that get represented in the volume signature? Well, you want to see volume kind of fall off as time goes on, with the selling volume in particular falling off as sellers, quite literally just lose. They don't have anything more to sell. Well, what do we see over here? Well, we see initially this kind of happened right over here, and when you got this first pop above, if you were drawing it the formal way, well, that was pretty damn cool, and that looked good, and that was Bitcoin's chance in my opinion. But after that, you see volume really increases the sell side as the pattern matures even more. So the way that I look at this is that it is unlikely to be that when we tally up all of the things that the bears have going for them and all the things that the bulls have going for them, that to me that would not be enough. Or at least I'd give the nod to the bears, and I certainly do lean to the bear side until proven otherwise. And that's just what fucking trading is. When you create 10 months of lower highs, and I know that bulls right now are saying, well, we have higher lows. Well, yeah. But you got to go with the former one until fucking proven otherwise. Could it happen? Yes, but I'm not gonna, I don't want to gamble it up right here, right now. Let the fucking gamblers do that. That is, that's you might win big once or twice, but it only takes once to really fuck you in the asshole. So again, sorry, I'm using a little bit more colorful language than I typically do on these Sunday morning streams. Sorry, if you're coming back from church, I apologize. This is now the church of Goat Jesus. Let's just go see where Goat Jesus is. There he is. Come on, Goat Jesus. Get your arms out and flying around, man. He is good. He is gracious, and he will give you salvation in his hands. All right. Anyways, back now here. Basing along your 200 exponential and 200 simple, which to me is just not a sign of strength. I want to see like a quick bounce, like a big bounce off of it, if it is going to be a good support. Again, the saying goes, strong support only needs to be support once. Okay, so let's go over here to GBTC. I want to check out GBTC. because sometimes he can be a nice help. Daily is did not have a good close on Friday. Very bad close on Friday. Now I was saying when you put in this doji-ish type formation right here, that can be a sign of indecision, perhaps even reversal. We didn't really get reversal. I want to see it on higher volume as well. I want to see higher volume, or if you're not going to have a higher volume doji, I want to see the follow through on higher volume. Well, we don't even have a follow through on top of that. Doesn't mean that it can't happen, but to sell it all back the next day and retest this support trend line tells me that it's not the strongest of all time. I was playing around with an idea here that, hey, maybe it is some sort of a falling wedgish type formation, falling channel, whatever you want to call it. But and it still can be until this actually officially breaks, but it just looks weaker and weaker to me. I really don't like how you sold it all back on Friday. The 200 simple is not just sloped to the downside; it is like it's like a knife. It's like a kamikaze knife slope to the downside. It's pretty nasty. But again, as long as it's kind of hanging on to this, it can pick itself up from here. But at the end of the day, I don't like the way that it's kind of looking right now. Weekly is just. What did we just see over here? Don't really have too much to see on the weekly, actually. Yeah, just you got some pretty nasty crosses over here, which Bitcoin is actually damn near trouble of kind of crossing it up very, very soon. By the way, let's throw on the 10 simple as well. Here we go. Okay, so the yellow 21 exponential and the green 55 exponential, which let's go over here to stamp and let's see. Yeah, okay, they are about the same. They will cross later tonight if Bitcoin does not close above about 7,000-ish area. They will cross. They've been hinting at a cross for a damn long time, and it's I think this is the week where you will actually see them cross officially. We only have one other time in history of Bitcoin's almost 10-year history of this actually happening right over here in 2014, and then boom, all the way down. Very similar situation as well, where you consolidate over here and then just all the way fucking down. I do want to check in. Hey, get off over there. Oh, by the way, weekly stochastics hinting at a cross to the downside as well. So, assuming that Bitcoin does not pick it up here, basically right here, right now, you will get that cross back to the downside. Even on Finex, which is trading above, still in danger, but not as much. Weekly RSI is. It's twisting around the exponential right here. So that's going to be my next big signal as well. Are we going to be living above or below that exponential? Because it's going to obviously drag us. If we do live below, it's going to drag us back into the bearish zone, which Bitcoin's never really lived in the bearish zone for a long time, ever since 2014. I mean, not even ever since 2014 until here. And this area over here does not really count because Bitcoin was just young, so it doesn't really have like enough information to go off of. But one of the reasons why I don't take into account this guy right here, you'll hear a lot of people talk about, well, Crown, why can't Bitcoin just do what we did in 2013? Well, it was a different scenario, really. Look at the RSI. The RSI right here it just tested. It didn't even get into the bear zone. It didn't even test it really. It just got like a few ticks down below the 50 zone or the neutral zone, and just bounced up like a V bottom out just very, very quickly. Compare that with this or with this. That's a completely different reaction. Not good. Okay, back now over here. Okay, what else do we have to talk about? All right, so the red 10 simple moving average over here, again, it's using it as resistance. Even on Finex, which is trading higher as well, did try above higher. If you do close below, it's just going to be another candle closing below it. So again, just not a sign of strength. That all the big moving averages are sloped to the downside. You're about to get across with these two guys. Your blue 30 simple moving average, which is kind of like, that's like the big boy. That's the one where I look at this. I don't really care about where it is, but I look at the slope, and if the slope is down, that's bad. Now it has lost its aggressiveness as of recent times, but it's still there. And that you kind of anticipate that when you do have 3 weeks of or basically 4 weeks of consolidation. And again, remember, we still did have this bearish engulfing candlestick right here. And these low volume, just kind of consolidation airy-ish type formations right here. Again, yes, the whole action's been on low volume, but typically speaking, those bearish engulfings do get followed through on, and that was the real move. That was a pretty intense move. if you were there for that, and it's like $1,200 down in like a day or so, or really a couple hours. And the fact that it's just we just been kind of like teetering along this area over here. It's just kind of losing power is what it feels like to me. I'm gonna go check on the MVT signal over here. Again, removed from price action. It is the network value divided by the 90-day moving average, so the daily transaction value, which is like some sort of relationship between basically like how much this is actually being used. It's funny, like people never talk about actual use. And I'm gonna get to actually a little bit of fundamental analysis in just a second as well, which I really want to talk about. Definitely not my thing, and in general I don't think that fundamental analysis is I don't care about it, but to be honest with you, but there are a few things to be said. Okay, so as you can see, this thing calls tops really well, and Bitcoin is basically above where my cursor is right now, which is the 150 line, which is traditionally the over critical area which leads to like crashes, right? It's had a good slew of 1, 2, 3, 4. 5. Do you want to call this one 6? But these 5 and 6 don't really count. We have one over here, which is great. We have one over here, which is great as well. So 5, 6, there you go. All right, that makes up for it. But once it gets over that 150 range, a lot of the time it does reset by coming back down to where my cursor is now, below the 50 range right here, as you notice. And while Bitcoin has been kind of hanging it above at one of the highest levels it's ever been at, almost the highest level it's ever been at, the second highest actually, it has not come back to reset those values. I don't know if that's like the right terminology when using this, but I think, you understand what I'm trying to say. It needs, you want to see it come back down to kind of base somewhere right around here. That's where it seems to put in its big lows around, you put in a low right over here, low right over here. I mean, this thing doesn't just call tops, it calls lows. You put in the low right over here, low right over here. I mean, it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. You can see right here, right now, we're very high. Okay, let's go check in on the longs versus shorts of it all. We have about almost 31,000 open shorts, so that is a lot. That is a lot. Squeeze can very well happen. That's why I don't really want to be short right now. So people are asking me what my position is. I don't really have one. Longs are at around a little over 26,000, which is. It's definitely not low. It's also definitely not high though. This thing can get up to like 40,000. Longs are paying about double the daily interest rate, by the way. And if we were to look at the shorts details, we have about almost a little under 5,000 hedge shorts. So really, we have about 25.9 thousand shorts open, like naked shorts open. That sounds good. But basically, really what I'm trying to suggest here is that actually the longs versus shorts is really at parity, really. It's kind of neutral between both sides when you incorporate the hedged amount. Okay, so let's go back into the data over here. So we really don't have anything big to make off of them is my point. Maybe you can say that there's that there could be a short squeeze, and I wouldn't disagree with you. It certainly could happen. But going over here to the daily, let's just kind of analyze the daily for a second. The 30 simple moving average has flatlined once again to represent this flat price action. But again, we have not seen it get upsloped for about 3 months now? 3 months now, holy shit. And again, we are living under this yellow 21, and that 10 simple is dancing. And I have uploaded a video to my public channel on this strategy right here. The 10 simple moving average represented by the red, and the yellow 21 exponential moving average represented by the yellow, only to be used on the daily dodo time frame. Well, when you do consolidate, it is not good. It has been kind of faking you out every which way for the last month. You got to cross here, you got to cross here, you got to cross here, and you're actually going to get another cross to the downside very, very soon. Now, when Bitcoin's actually moving, it's beautiful. You get across here, you get across here, it's better when you're actually on the side of the trend of the overall trend. Get across here to the downside, get across here to the downside, get across here to the downside. So when things are trending, this is a beautiful strategy. It's one of those things where I know people who just that's all they do, and that's how they make their living. It's kind of funny, but it works. It's one of those things. It's like I feel dirty even admit it. It fucking works though. It is hinting at a cross to the downside after dance along the top side as well. But again, that's what is this telling us over here? It's consolidating. There really hasn't been good trades to be had recently. Overall, 2-day, same sort of thing. 2-day, all living below the 21 exponential. And more importantly, you do still have the death cross to be dealing with. And remember, when you did get the death cross in 2014, which is the only other example of Bitcoin's death cross ever happening on the 2-day time frame, right over here, it did spend a lot of time going sideways before ultimately just being pushed off the cliff to its ultimate low. So just again, more things to be aware of. These markets take time. First, they wear you out, they wear you down, they bore you, they get out, they get a lot of people out that way, and then they just fucking stick it in your heart. I hate that I'm using that word they. There's no they. I really want to discourage this sort of thinking. There's no fucking they. There are bigger accounts that are probably that might be bigger than you, and when they want to move money, then them being people with more money than you can probably frustrate you if you feel like your analysis was correct, but they fucked it up. It's like, no, it's just a world market, and some people have more money, and that's completely fine. You would be they if you had more money, and perhaps you are a they to someone else who has less money. Ever think about that? Perspective. Anyways, okay, so about the fundamental analysis. So a lot of people are saying, Crown, what about Backed? What about ETF? What about Lightning? Well, yes, they're great. They're awesome. They're good. And they're something that you should be excited for. Does it relate to price? Not as much as you'd think. And the reason for that being is because as soon as things are announced, they are priced in. Why is that? Well, everyone's making decisions in anticipation of it. Ask yourself the same question. When you heard about Backed being announced, what did you think? Did you take any action on top of that? Well, there's likely other people thinking the same way. So that's why there's that whole kind of saying, it's priced in. Well, it's not a saying. I mean, it's a reality. It's priced in. And the reality is, as soon as something's announced, it's almost, and it becomes like a positive feedback loop as well, right? It becomes a positive feedback loop because people will just be making that decision based off the fact that they think other people will be making that decision. I don't necessarily care, to be honest. I'm going to trade either way. But I know that other people will be making the decision off of it. So I know that you're initially going to get that nice rally. And then after that, you typically sell off. Let me give you a great example. And I want to really talk directly to someone like Supoman, who I regrettably, not regrettably, he's probably a nice guy, but I listened to one of his videos the other day because it was about like why Bitcoin crashed, and it blamed it on futures. It said that professionals could just blindly short. They could short futures without ever having to touch the underlying asset. That could not be more wrong. The reason why Bitcoin went down, and of course this is a highly variable situation, but one of the biggest reason why Bitcoin went down is because you have an event. You get the announcement right over here. You get the announcement. Everyone buys it right at the announcement because it's already priced in. Everyone's already making the decision right here. It gets announced in November, right? Big rally, just straight parabolic rally up, just insanity. It gets debuted. The event, once the event happens, it sells off. You saw it last week. There's a big rally leading up for Ripple. We're actually gonna do some analysis on Ripple. Big rally leading up for Ripple. As soon as their swell conference kind of gets closer and more things get announced. What happens literally right as they get to swell? It started selling. It actually started selling off like a week before. Because I think people just couldn't wait. But it's buy the rumor, sell the news, or buy the lead up to the event and then sell the event. Buy the announcement, sell the event, or however you want to represent that is what I'm trying to say. So again, did Bitcoin like basically reverse because futures came into play and now people could blindly short that? Well, first things first, at this point in time, all the way up until about here, futures weren't even fucking traded. You can go look at the data. It was nothing. It was fucking peanuts. Second, what are professionals doing? Do they ever naked short something? Fuck no. That's why they're professionals. They hedge. So if you would have been shorting the futures, which the only relation that futures would have to the underlying asset is because people will be hedging, well, then they'd have to be buying the underlying asset. So they'd actually be buying spot Bitcoin, selling the futures. Now, probably what happened is they were selling spot Bitcoin and buying the futures. To be quite honest, and this is just shows the naivety of this statement. Again, I don't think Superman's probably bad. I don't think he's probably a bad person or anything like that. I don't fucking know him. I can't speak on that sort of thing. But what I can say is it's what he said is very misleading. It's not consistent with what I know. On top of that, you know, you had plenty of other places to short shit to begin with, and there was plenty of institutions already in there. And you're probably thinking, no, Crown, that can't be true. It was Wall Street. No. I'm telling you from experience, I know other medium and big firms that were actually that would have been trading Bitcoin for longer than probably you have. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. It's just, you know, most people entered in within like a year or a little bit more than a year ago. Well, these people have known about Bitcoin for the last 5 fucking years, and in some cases even longer. And yes, they do quote Bitcoin and they do play Bitcoin on all of the exchanges that you do as well. BitMEX, Bitfinex, you know, Binance, all these great exchange, all these very highly altruistic exchanges. You know, you could trade futures on OKX. You know, it's so silly to make a statement like that. It's just wrong. It's straight up wrong. So yeah, there you go. Again, sorry, Superman, but had to make an example out of you. Okay, so what else do we have to talk about? Let's go over to Ripple. Speaking of Ripple, because we just destroyed Bitcoin a little bit too hard. Or did we get through Bitcoin enough? Let's go look at the futures. Oh yeah, there will be something interesting. Hey, I believe futures have opened up as of this morning. I just saw a tick to 65.30. So yeah, let's see. Are we open? No, we're not. No, we're not open. Huh? That was weird. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it doesn't open up till later today on Sunday. By the way, I believe it's like 5 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Central, something like that. So futures did close on Friday around 65.20. So I'd imagine that price action probably does hang around this area and until they open, and then you kind of fill the gap, and then you get your move. If spot Bitcoin is trading below with the futures price where they closed at, and you rally up into it, then it'll probably be a sell. If Bitcoin's trading above it and it gets pulled back into the gap at 65.20, then you probably buy it, and you look for, and you have a nice little bounce. Doesn't always work, but it's one of those things that it works a lot of the time. But we have to see where price action is in relation, because right now it can go either way. If Bitcoin does open up lower, then there you go. So yeah. Okay, let's get on over here to Mr. Ripple Me Timbers. All right, Ripple Me Timbers, let's see what we got. Ripple is now flirting around with the break of this major support right here. So we've been talking about this for a while now, the 48.5-cent support, which is also your yellow 20-month exponential. Funny how those things kind of coincide sometimes. Has not officially broken it just yet, but also doesn't look too healthy right here, to be fair. Stochastics over here opened up and gaining momentum to the downside. Daily RSI, wait, get over here, you fucker. There we go. Daily RSI heading back into the neutral zone right here. Might have a little bit of a bounce. But overall, my eyes are on the next daily close. If you close below 48.5 cents, I really don't see much holding you up from about 37.5 cents. Ripple still has one of the better charts in Bitcoin. I always want to say that. I always want to give it its due diligence or its due credence. But if it does destroy 37.5 cents or 37, it's 37 cents about. If it does destroy that area, then you got a big problem. As you probably will find some new lows. But overall, major bullish divergence over here. You had a phenomenal run over here, so maybe it just needs to consolidate a little bit lower, and that's I don't want to say to be expected. Nothing's to be expected, but it can be expected when you do have a major run up like this. So again, if you do break this area right here, I don't see, you will have support along the way. You will have also 43 cents right around here. We can mark this one off, but it's not like a big support in my opinion. It's, you'll probably bounce there, but 37 cent support is the big area to be aware of. By the same token, maybe you do have some sort of miracle and kind of crawl your way back up over here around 58 cents. You can get above there, then yeah, then we can continue the run. But for right here, right now, event-driven things typically do get sold into. All right, let's go check out Mr. Buterol. Mr. Buterol, always something that I want to have my eyes on because there are some interesting things. So Mr. Buterol, let's go into like an 8-hour. All right, so as you can see right here, I do represent this as a symmetrical triangle right here, right now. You did put in a nice hammerish on very, 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 very low volume, but you do have follow through on top of that. But again, the bigger pattern to be played is very simple right here. Let's actually maybe go to a 4-hour. Yeah, there we go. Your upper resistance right here at about 220, 227 and a half, 228, we'll call it, right around here. Your lowest support right around here at around 222 and a half. And this thing is getting very tight like a tiger, you know, good old gold member. With an apex basically in a couple days, but it's probably gonna break out pretty fucking soon. If I were to make a guess, you do have this obvious. I mean, I would just be kind of going off of that right there. Actually, you would have support along the way if you were to break it to the downside. This is your next big support right around 213, we'll call it. This is your next support amongst that, and then you got this guy right here. Sorry, maybe it's this guy. Yeah, it's this guy right here. Yeah, and because it is a symmetrical triangle, you can make a measure move off of it, which will now represent like this. And if we break it up to the upside, which is certainly possible, and we have some beautiful symmetry within this because it does align with this guy right around here. Oh, perfect, man, just fucking perfect. Then it'd be pointing you towards 270-ish area, which would be nice. If you break it down here, then it'd be pointing you towards 181, which is not as nice. Sorry, I guess more right around here. Huh. I don't have that one perfect. Damn. All right. Well, the weekly over here is very interesting as well. I'm going to take all this off. The weekly is very interesting to me because what Mr. Beaterall needs to do over here in order to survive and make the argument that the low is in is it cannot violate 195. If it violates 195, you got a big problem. Suggesting that you might likely go much lower. I don't like how it's kind of drooping over. I don't like this close over here on high volume. I just don't like the overall shape of this chart over here as well. And it just kind of looks a little bit nasty, but fair enough. Don't want to call that one before it happens. What I will say, though, is you do have, and I still believe that this is right, you do have a rising channel over here. And did you break the rising channel to the downside? Because yesterday I was representing it like this. Now, do I just redraw it? This is why I hate diagonals. Do I want to redraw it? I don't want to redraw it. Maybe I just redraw it like this, and that's really the way to be doing it. But maybe we do it like this, and then it already has been broken, perhaps, and it is using it as resistance. Let's give it the benefit of the doubt over here and say that it has not been broken. Well, this would be a bear flag, and if we do have a bear flag, we can make a measure move to the downside if it does get confirmed broken, and that would be suggesting a move all the way down here towards low 100s, which would put you right around this horizontal right here. Really good volume coming in from past prior action as well, so I like that. Not the strongest support of all time, but it would kind of make sense. If we do look at the daily, you'll notice that it looks like it's already been broken, actually. It looks like you broke it over here the first way that I kind of represented it, and you're just kind of hanging around right now. Very possible. Very, 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 very possible. And that would suggest that we've already broken it down, and your measure move would be pointing you all the way down here towards, same thing, 111-ish area. So again, things to be aware of over here. This might have already actually happened. The volume profile on this would not be perfect for a rising channel bear flag, but again, just like Bitcoin, 6150 needs to be broken for me to really entertain any major downside scenarios. For Mr. Beaterall, 195 needs to be broken for me to entertain major downside scenarios. And just like Bitcoin getting above 10,000 is where I look for Bitcoin to kind of like, all right, well, the low is in. We ain't going lower most likely. The area for Mr. Beaterall would be right here at 369. So yeah, all right. Does that do it? Does that do it for what we wanted to talk about? Let's go do the daily look on the Trollinger bands, because why not? Let's go see what they're saying. Let's get an idea if this is likely to break right here, right now. Okay, so weekly. Likely to be closing another weekly below the median band, the skid mark right here. Just, again, not a good sign as it gets really, really tight. So it's really telling us that it's consolidating. You can have fake outs on this, fair enough, though. You can certainly have fake outs. But yeah, it's you generally want to be above it. You can start pushing it just like you did, to the down. If you were to like really break, just like you did over here in October 16th, which by the way was the only other time that Bitcoin's been this tight in the Trollinger bands. Then you can break out and you start to push them. And if you were to push them to the downside, that would be pretty nasty, pretty fast. By the same token, you can still have a fake out. You do get those sometimes. But again, one thing before the other. Um, so yeah, if we were to put on the BBWs, again, I just want to show that Bitcoin does not stay this tight for that long. Now the BBWs over here is not what you see on Pornhub, but it is what it is what kind of tells you how tight the Bollinger Bands do indeed get. You can see that once it gets to the area that we're currently at. Let's go to the daily for this actually, just because it ticks more. Once we get to the area that we're currently at, it does not spend much time there for long. I mean, it's gotten down here a few times in history, but it has some significant moves extremely soon after that. It's just been going down and down and down. I mean, Bitcoin is just it's like a Bitcoin coma right now. But that does kind of provide the impetus for this thing. And again, you already know that intuitively. One of the big things is that when you do have a formation, a consolidation that's been, building up for about 10 months, over 10 months now, that's what's called a cause. And the bigger cause that you build leads to a bigger effect, a bigger potential effect. So this is what I'm looking at right here, right now. That's kind of, I think that's probably all we're going to discuss for today. I might be on later tonight, depending upon if we get a move or not, to be honest with you. I want to see like an actual move. But just kind of wrap up the lower time frames right around here. We still got 6650 resistance, 6550 support. If you break 6550 support, you got 6450. You got below that, you got 6350. If you were to break up to the upside, you got 6750. Which would lead to a break of the smaller descending triangle, which would likely initiate around to low 7,000s, where you kind of meet your next big test. By the same token, if you were to break the lower support, well, you still have to contend with 6150. And I really don't want to entertain like super low ideas until that area is broken. Oh, I do want to point out one more thing. Again, I do believe in Bitcoin long term. Remember this dotted 10-year logarithmic trend line? Well, if you were to extend that to the current year's end, the bottom of this would be around 6,100, 6,200-ish areas. So if you do believe that it's going to hold, which there ain't no promises that it will, then maybe, if you're a longer-term investor, then that's good enough for you. Again, not for me, but I know that will make sense for some people, for sure. And it could very well be a great decision. And that's what trading is, just decisions based off of probabilities and mitigating risk on top of that. So there you go. All right, that's going to do it for today. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak with you. I'll probably be on later today, although I'm not necessarily sure. I really want to see some price action, some new price action. Otherwise, we're just going to be repeating the same thing over and over again. Let's see if the lower time frames have any sort of thing to be aware of. Your 3-hour stochastics are getting down to the bottom, so be aware of that. 8 hours, 8-hour stochastics pointing down. 12 hours still going up, but losing a little bit of momentum. Daily still pointing down as well. So a lot of things can come into play right here. Again, I don't really want to have a position until we break one of the major ranges. More conservatively, this guy 6750 or 6350, but really it's like the 6150 area that I like to play, or the 74 area that I like to play. All right, guys. So until next time, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak with you, and I'll see you in a live stream near you soon. Take care.